He poured molten silver into the eyes and ears of many citizens. Genghis Khan was one of the greatest conquerors in history, unifying the nomadic tribes of Mongolia and creating a vast empire that stretched from China to Europe. His name means universal ruler, and he is considered the founder of the Mongol nation. However, he is also known for his brutal war tactics, which caused the death of millions of people and the destruction of many civilizations. He was a brilliant strategist who created a formidable war machine that amazed the world. His battle tactics and the effectiveness of his armies often left his enemies in shock as he used surprise, speed, and coordination to crush his opponents. However, Genghis Khan's story is also intertwined with controversy and moral complexity. While his military achievements are undeniable, his focus on total war and brutality on the battlefield should not be overlooked. His influence in shaping the modern world is undeniable, as are the debates over the human cost of his actions. Welcome to the Diary of History. Genghis Khan's childhood unfolded amidst unforgiving circumstances, a time when adversity forged his character with unwavering determination. At the tender age of 9, tragedy struck mercilessly. His father fell victim to the machinations of a rival tribe, leaving an irreparable void. Pushed into an abyss of uncertainty, his mother and he, along with his 6 siblings, were banished from their tribe. In a world where survival became the primary goal, the daily struggle for food and safety became their constant. Set in 13th century Mongolia, an inhospitable place for a wife and 7 helpless children, hunger and cold were constant companions. These harsh conditions were the crucible in which Genghis Khan became a true warrior, forged in the forge of necessity. He even faced heartbreaking situations, such as the heartbreaking death of his brother Bektir, a tragic episode born of food shortage. His life's path was further darkened by the enslavement of his brother by a rival clan, an experience that was a source of determination and resentment for him. Each day under the yoke of slavery deepened his hatred and desire for revenge. The young man who emerged from that prison was an enigma, determined not only to survive, but to triumph, and he would turn his rage into the cornerstone of his rising empire. In his childhood, Genghis Khan distilled the brutal lessons of struggle, hunger, and hatred into an irresistible force. From an outcast youth to an indomitable leader, his story resonates as an epic of resilience in the midst of adversity, a narrative of how a soul forged in the gloom of survival can rise to become one of history's most feared and powerful conquerors. Temujin was Khan's real name, and it resonated with the meaning of iron or blacksmith, a solid and honorable title. However, when he aspired to the throne of an empire that was destined to dominate vast lands, he understood that he needed a name that transcended blacksmiths. Thus, in 1206, Temujin renamed himself Genghis Khan. The sages agree that Khan carries with it the weight of the meaning of ruler, a title that embodied authority and leadership that he exercised with a firm hand. While the word Khan is unanimous in its interpretation, the waters become murky when we dive into the meaning of Genghis. Some hold it to be a vast ocean of influence, while others understand it to mean right or just, a quality that, in his ever-expanding empire, perhaps had to be balanced with the ferocity of his quest for power. A quest that leads us to the story of the noble Inalchuq and his tragic fate at the hands of Genghis Khan, and which highlights the cruelty and ferocity that characterized the military campaigns of the great conqueror. Inalchuq, a leader of a community in the path of the advancing Mongol army, faced a crucial choice: join Genghis Khan's ranks or resist to the end. His refusal to submit to the Khan's demands triggered a series of events that culminated in one of the most sinister and horrifying scenes in the history of the Mongol conquest. When Inalchug refused to surrender, Genghis Khan, known for his ruthlessness in warfare, decided to use extreme violence as a means to impose his rule. He ordered the siege of the community and, after a fierce battle, the Mongol forces succeeded in taking control. However, instead of simply annihilating the inhabitants, Genghis Khan chose to inflict an even more heinous punishment. He poured molten silver into the eyes and ears of Inalchug. This action not only resulted in death, but was a calculated act of torture. This event added to Genghis Khan's reputation as a leader capable of inflicting unimaginable suffering as a means of controlling and terrorizing those who dared to defy his authority. But his tactics went beyond that. With swift cavalry and horsemanship that bordered on perfection, the Mongols embodied mobility and speed. Like shadows, they would surprise opponents at the least expected moment, inflicting a ruthless blow and vanishing again before resistance could organize. A most feared of Khan's tactics was encirclement. Cities and fortresses became besieged islands, with the Mongols blocking supplies and water until surrender seemed the only escape from a worse fate. While Khan was accustomed to swift victories and quick subjugation, his patience quickly wore thin when he encountered stubborn opposition. In his more serene moments he was already known for his ferocity. It is not hard to imagine the extent of his wrath in moments of extreme irritation. This trait was evident in one of the most sinister episodes in his history, the siege of the city of Urgench, a place that defied his advance with uncommon skill and determination. The defenders of Urgench, aware of the threat posed by the Khan, adopted guerrilla warfare tactics, defying the conventions of direct battle. The Khan was incensed by Urgench's subtle but steady resistance. The result was a relentless assault that has gone down in history as one of the most devastating actions under his command. According to some estimates, the loss of human life at Urgench was staggering. It is believed that more than 1 million lives were lost in a matter of days due to the ruthless efficiency of Genghis Khan and his hosts. Genghis Khan's exploits and conquests left a trail of devastation that can hardly be underestimated. The cities that crossed his path became landscapes of destruction and chaos. As the Mongol armies advanced, urban structures were razed to the ground, homes reduced to dust. The Mongol attack on Iran demonstrates how much of an effect Genghis Khan had on the areas he conquered. The Mongol incursion had a significant and enduring impact on the region. Islamic culture had been thriving for centuries, but was endangered and weakened by the conflict. The Xia culture was completely destroyed, proving the strength of the Mongol armies. Xia was erased by Genghis Khan's campaign, despite its cultural successes and contributions. There are accounts that suggest Genghis Khan may have employed other forms of torture, such as impalement and mutilation. The Mongols gained a notorious reputation for their cruel methods of torture, a machinery of suffering that perpetuated their rule. One of the most infamous torments consisted of bending the backs of their victims until the spine gave way. Russians from the conquered territories were forced to act as table legs. For this purpose they were kneeled down and a huge door was placed on top of them, which was used as a banquet table. The enslaved Russians died from suffocation, pressure, and the continuous wounds they were given. As Genghis Khan expanded his rule into new lands, he implemented a peculiar procedure to consolidate his power. He organized beauty contests that brought together the women of the newly conquered territory. In these events, women participated in a meticulous scrutiny of their attributes. The one chosen as the most beautiful among them obtained a title of dubious honor. She became one of the Khan's many wives. That woman, wrapped in a facade of privilege, was trapped in a world of uncertainty, where her appearance became a bargaining chip for the ambition of a ruthless leader. The other women faced an equally cruel fate. Turned into spoils of war, they were shared among the members of the Khan's army. Subjected to a life of submission, their autonomy and dignity were shattered by a practice that only served to underscore the oppression and violence that characterized Khan's reign. The death of Genghis Khan is still a debated topic in history, with no definitive agreement on the precise details of his passing. However, there are several theories about how he died. One common theory suggests that Genghis Khan died in battle in the year 1227. According to this version, during a military campaign in the territory of the Western Xia tribe, he fell off his horse in the middle of a battle. This version suggests a fitting end for a leader who had devoted much of his life to war and conquest. It is said that the wound he received left him seriously hurt, and he died shortly thereafter as a result of those injuries. However, regardless of the details, his legacy as a formidable leader and daring conqueror lives on in history.